Morning, everyone. Uh, so these are the commands what we have already discussed in the previous sessions. So let's continue from here. As part of that, today let us talk about cat command. Last time, if you remember, I have spoke about what is cat command. Like if you want to see the content, what is stored inside the file, that is one thing. What does it mean? Let us say I have a file. For example, let me create it. I'll go to the root user first. I have this particular file. I want to see the content, what is stored, means the data that is stored inside this particular file. First thing is, since we don't know about the editors, the Linux editors which I've shown you last time, since we doesn't know that, the only command that we can use right now is cat command as of now to see the information of this particular file and print that particular output on the terminal. Okay. So for example, if I give cat and the file name, you can see the output has been printed. What has been stored in that file? Okay. This is the first thing that we can do with cat command. What is the second thing that we can do? Let us see. If I want to create a file, for example, we know we can use a touch command. If I use a touch command, it is going to create an empty file. We know that, but no data will get added. Now I want to create a file and I want to add some data as well. Okay. In those conditions, we can use cat. Redirection, we call it as single greater than, or we can use double greater than. Okay. So there is a slight difference between greater than and double greater than. Okay. The option what you see. First of all, let's talk about single greater. And here I want to create a file with the name, let us say AWS term, and then enter. What does it mean? Cat is a command. Okay. So here I'm saying the cat command that what are the commands I execute, means what are the data I pass here that should get stored in this particular file. If this file doesn't exist, it is going to create. If the file exists, then what are the content you are adding here that will get overwritten? Overwritten in the sense what? If you already have a file and it is having some data, the data will get removed and the new data will get added. That is called as overwrite. This will happen when you use single greater than. There is another scenario where I have a file, I have the data as well exist. Now I want to add a new content to that particular file. In those conditions, we can use double greater than. That is called as append. 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 So overwrite or append. According to your requirement, we have to change the option either single greater than or double greater than. Since here I want to create a new file, obviously I know it is overwriting. Okay. Means I'm creating a new file. It doesn't have any data exist. So I can go for single greater than and enter. Now we can see the cursor is pointing on a new line. Here I can start writing whatever I want. For example, this is I've written like this. Second line, I want to write another data. Let us say you can see I have written two lines of data. Now, if I have any mistakes, means let us say, for example, here I have written requirement of I want to replace this particular word. What I need to do? I cannot use left arrow. Here there is a cursor right now. I have to bring this cursor either here or here to remove this particular word, or to modify this particular word, or to replace this particular word. The problem with the cat command, the approach what I'm using is, the problem is I can't use left arrow. If I use left, it is going to give a ASCII code of it. So that is not the thing, right? It has to move it. I can't use up arrow to go to the previous line. If I need to go to the first line, you can see it doesn't work. Right arrow doesn't work. Down arrow doesn't. Same case. Now, what is the approach that we have in order to replace this particular word? You have to delete the whole line like this. You have to go to that particular position. You have to rewrite the whole sentence again. That's a problem what we have. Okay. Limitation. If you are following this particular approach, you have to know what are the limitations we have. One of the limitation is nothing but if you want to modify the sentence, you have to remove the previous words and then you have to delete your actual data and write it. Okay. So this is the problem what we have. That's the default behavior of the cat command. Okay. And if I need to modify the above line, it is not possible. You have to cancel this. Again, you have to rewrite it. Okay. So there is no chance for us. Once you enter into a new line, you cannot go to the previous line. It's not possible with this approach, whether it is single greater than or double greater than. With the cat command, it is not possible. If you want to modify any existing word in the sentence, you have to remove the previous words and come back to that position and do the modifications. Okay. These are the two things that you have to remove. Sorry, you have to remember as part of this cat code. Once you are done with your task, let us have written the lines what are necessary to get stored into that file. Then to save these changes, Control D. Now what happened? Whatever you have written, those changes have been stored in the file. If you want to verify it, okay, first of all, the file has been created and the file is having some data because it is not zero, right? Apart from zero is obviously we have stored some data. Okay. And now if I want to see what kind of data that has been stored in the file, cat AWS, we can see whatever we have written here, those lines are available inside the text. Now the second requirement is I don't want to overwrite this particular existing data in the file. I want to add some new lines. Now where you want to add those new lines, those new lines, either I want to add it in the middle or on the top of the file or at the bottom of the file. Three possibilities, right? Either we can add in between the lines, starting of the lines or end of the lines inside the file. Now with this cat command approach, you can add only at the end of the file lines. That is called as appending. It is not an insert. Okay. It is called as append. Now let's see how the data will get appended. For example, now come out of it means Control D. How many lines should be there in this particular file? Totally 4. Earlier it is 2 lines. Now the 2 new lines have been added. On total it is 4. Let us wait. What happened? The new lines what you have written has been added at the bottom of the file. That is called as append. Okay. So these are the things that we can do with cat command. Now, any questions in this? Okay. Now there is another requirement where I have this particular file. What are the data I have in this particular file? I want to add the same data as of now to another file. How to do that? Cat AWS demo. Now this particular file content, I don't want to print it. I want to redirect this particular output of the file to another file. That particular file might be existing or I might be creating a new file. So let's say Azure. Now what happened? A new file has been created. Whatever the data you have at this particular point of time, that data has been added into this particular new file. If you want to verify it, cat Azure. You can see same lines. You can verify like this. If you're not able to verify line by line, let us say here it is only 4 lines, you can verify. But if you have some hundreds of lines, I want to see the difference between these two. For that, instead of using any online websites and all, in Linux operating system, we have diff, means difference. I want to see is there any difference between AWS demo file and Azure demo file. So let us give the file names. There is no difference. If there is a difference, it will show you like this. For example, I will add some new lines to one of the file. Let us say Azure demo. New lines or if it is if those lines some dummy data I'm writing. It doesn't mean that you guys have to write the same. Now you can see this Azure demo file has 6 lines of content. Okay. Now I want to know what is the difference between AWS demo file and Azure demo file. What kind of lines are missing? What kind of data is getting different? Okay. So in the online we have something called diff checker. Okay, we have diff checker. You can use this online tool. I'm not doing that. The original content, let us say one file content, another file content. And then if you say find difference, it will show you the difference. I'm not using this kind of online tools right now. Within the Linux itself, we have a command called diff and AWS demo Azure touch. You can see what it is trying to say. Fifth line and sixth line should be added. Okay. In which file right now? That is the confusion part what we have, right? Okay, it has given this particular arrow marks and it is saying you something. So this particular arrow mark indicates that these lines are available in this file, but these lines are not available in this file. After fourth line, 5, 6 is not available when you compare it with Azure. Now let me try to give a difference like this. I will write this particular file name first and AWS as a second. Now what it is showing you, less than symbol. Earlier it is greater than, now it is less than. Okay, what does it mean? You have some particular 5 and 6 line which is not available in this particular file. Either you have to delete. Here it is showing you as append, A for append, but here it is showing you D for delete. What does it mean? If you want to make it equivalent to this particular file, AWS demo, you have to remove these 2 lines what you have added. You can see less than in the sense what? Those are available here, but not here. Okay. So by looking at the arrow marks in this particular words, you have to understand. That is the only thing what we have. Okay. So this is the purpose of diff command. This will help you a lot when you want to compare multiple files in the Linux operating system. Okay. Now we have done with cat and we have discussed about diff command as well. Okay, these commands we'll discuss later. Okay, for now it is on hold. Next one. Okay. There's one particular. See, out of this, I'll discuss few commands now, which is a bit easier. Next one is df command. Okay. So now the purpose of this particular command is someone asked you to verify what is the space that is available on the device. Device in the sense for now it is disk. Okay. So that particular disk you might have created a partitions or without creating a partitions also you might have used the entire disk. What does it mean? For example, if you go to this Windows system, here I have one disk. Okay. How you will come to know how many disks have been attached to your system? For that, we have a application called disk management. We have disk management. In this particular application, you can see in Windows system, we have totally 2 disks. Slot 1, slot 2, we call it as. In the PC, you know it, there will be a slots in the motherboard. So in one particular slot, we have almost 1 terabyte. In another slot, you can see there is 500 MB. Okay. So here you can see D drive is almost 931 GB available. Okay, it is healthy and now it is in use. There is a disk 1 which is in the second slot, which is using 465 GB. I think these two are okay. Yeah. In this we have C drive. So C drive is here, D drive is here. So I have not created any partitions in a single disk. I have two disks. One particular disk is written as C drive, another particular disk is D drive. Okay. And you can see the percentage, utilization, capacity, health, everything from here. Okay. This information you can gather from here. The utilization, you can see 100% free, 100% free in disk one. In this particular disk, you can see C drive, it is 69% free. What does it mean? 31% utilized. Okay. And what kind of file system we are using here? NTFS, we call it as. Okay. For Windows operating system, to store any amount of, sorry, to store any data or to read any data from the disk, there has to be a file system. I told you, right, how we have an operating system with our device and our human beings or some program or application, whatever it is. So we have operating system as a mediator. Similar to that, between your program and your disk, to write the data or to read the data, we need to have a file system. In Windows, the file system is NTFS. In Linux, we have different types of file systems like ext3, ext4, and then we have BTRFS, ZFS, XFS, VFS. There are plenty of file systems. Among them, we use only ext4 or uh, BTRS. These two, ext4 and BTRS. Now, this is the whole picture of what I'm talking about. Okay, you understood in the Windows level. Now, let us go back to the Linux operating system. In the same way, I want to see the number of disks that have been attached to my system. Okay, forget about whether it is virtual machine or a physical machine. As of now, this Linux operating system where it is running. But I want to see the number of disks that have been attached to this system. The command is lsblk. What is the full form of this command? List block devices. List blocks. The shortcut of this command is lsblk. How many disks have been attached to the system? Only one. How it is represented? It is not like disk 0, disk 1 like Windows operating system. Here it will have some naming convention for that. SDA, SDB, SDC, like that. A, B, C, D. Last character. Then what is meant by SD? SSD disk. S is nothing but in SDA, S is nothing but SSD. Why? Because the disk what I'm using, which type it is? SSD hard disk. There is HDD hard disk, SSD hard disk, magnetic disk, different types. Right? So the one what I'm using right now is SSD hard disk. So it is S. If it is HDD hard disk, it will show you H, HDA, HDB, HDC, like that. Now D is nothing but disk. A is alphabetical order. For the first disk, it will show you A. For the second disk, it will show you B. Next C, D, E, F, like that. Alphabetical order. So this is a representation of this device name in the Linux operating system. Okay. Now this is a disk. On this particular 30 GB of disk, we have created some partitions. One is HDA 1 and 2. What does it mean? This particular disk has been created to two partitions. That's the reason why you can see the prefix of this particular partition name as disk name, because it is created from this particular disk. Right? You can see it is a partition. Part in the sense what? Partition. Later you will understand what is this particular slash and all other things. When I talk about disk management, in that I will be talking about file system, partitions, LVM, these kind of concepts. Okay. So this is a representation. Or else we can use one more command called DLKID. Here also we can see the partitions data, the partition information. What kind of file system we are using? ext4. Where the operating system is running? Here. on this particular partition, your operating system is running. So what kind of file system it is using on that particular partition? ext4. Okay, when disk is created into partitions, on the disk you will not see any file system. On the partition level, you will see the file system. Okay, so this is the actual partition which is having a file system of ext4. And every disk and partition will have a unique number. UUID, Universal Unique Identifier. And this is partition UUID. Okay, so this and next one is. Now I want to see the utilization percentage. With these two commands, what we have understood, what is the partition, what is the disk, what is the capacity of the disk, okay, what is the partitions, how much size you have allocated to each partition, what is the file system type of the partitions or the disk. Those informations can be fetched from here. Now what I want to know is, similar to the Windows operating system, I want to know the utilization percentage. For example, here we can see out of 464 GB, how much is utilized. The free one is nothing but 321 GB. What does it mean? The space that is left is 143 for utilized. 143 GB has been utilized. Here we can see out of 931 GB, only 30 was utilized. Rest of 901 GB is free. Okay. In the same way, in Linux operating system, I want to see the utilization of the disk and the partitions of the system. How will you come to know? DF, disk free. DF is nothing but disk free. And then I want to print the output in human readable language. So -h. You can see tempfs, you can ignore them. For now, this particular partition. Okay. So what is the total capacity of this partition? 30 GB. How much is used? 2.6 GB. How much is available? 26 GB. What is the utilization in percentage form? 10%. Out of 100%, right now the disk utilized is only 10% by your operating system. That's what we need to understand. Totally operating system, right now that is a utilization. You might be having some applications, other things and all that. So together, the total utilization is only 10% of this particular partition. Okay. So this is the purpose of your df-h command. I want to know what is the file system of each partition as well. Then there is one more option for the same command, that is capital T. Enter. Now it will print the additional column which will show you the type of the file system. For temporary file system, the file system name itself is tempfs. Temporary in the sense what? Once you shut down the system, this particular file systems will be lost. Okay, this is temporary. And here we can see ext4 file system. What we have seen here, you can get it from here as well. Or we can see here as well. Okay. So this is all about disk and the partition utilization. Next one is du command. Okay, disk utilized. For example, I have a file or a directory, or we can say a folder, or we can say directory right now in Linux operating system. For example, let's say I have this particular temp directory. I want to know, see, there are many directories and many files on the system, but I want to know how much disk has been occupied or the space is occupied by this particular directory on the system. For example, if I go back here, okay, I want to see what is the utilization of this particular directory. If I right click, if I go to properties, here, is it showing you anything here? Nothing. Okay. For example, I'll just click in Windows folder. Okay, it doesn't have any functions. Doesn't. So that's a problem. I'll do one thing here. Right click, properties. Here you can see What is the total capacity of this particular documents directory right now under C drive? It is 125 MB. How many files we have under that? 16 files. And under that we have again three folders. Three folders. In this particular three folders, on total we have totally 16 files together. And the total size occupied by this particular folder on the system is 125 MB. Okay, this is the total capacity. But in that we have plenty of folders. Okay, I want to know individual folder utilization on the disk or the partition. Then that particular option will help you. Similar to that, in Linux operating system, how will you know what is the space that is occupied, okay, by this particular directory? How to do that? Disk utilization -s suppress -h human readable of this particular directory. What is the total utilization of this? 72 KB. If you want to know individual directories under that particular directory, for example, under this, you might be having some subdirectories. I want to know the utilization of them as well, individual. This is the total right now of /10. I want to know the individual directories under this particular 10 as well. In those conditions, we have to remove S. And you can see the utilization of this particular individual directories. For example, it is showing you 4 KB. If you try to count, you can see 8 KB, 8 KB like that. Some are 4 KB, and on the total, it is 72 KB. Okay. Next one. LS BLK we have discussed. BLK we have discussed. This command is available. Yes. Okay. Now we have a concept called, there is a point called environment variables. There is in any programming language you take as an example, we have a concept called variables. Does anyone know why we use variables in any programming language? You might have written some simple C programming language or somewhere along that. Okay, do you know why we use variables in programming?
To store or assign a
Any guess
value.
or any answers? I don't hear anything. Okay. So why we use variables in programming is, if we have some particular value that I need to use in plenty of places in the program, you might be using that particular value in many places while you're writing some program inside the file, okay, or inside the logic, whatever it is. So when you want to repeat the same value, if I hard code the value, what will happen? Let us forget about variables for now, for a few minutes. Now, if I hard code the value in all the places wherever I want to utilize it, that is fine while you're writing the program. But tomorrow, if I want to replace the value, I need to change the value. You should not see. It doesn't mean that you should change only in one line, right? I have to change in all the lines wherever it is necessary. So, do you think that it is easy to do? No. That is the reason why we use variables concept. So, tomorrow, if I want to replace a value, just you update your variable value. Automatically, wherever we are calling the variable name, the value will get replaced with the new value. That is the benefit of using variables concepts in programming language. Similar to that in Linux operating system, we have something called variables. Even in Windows operating system as well, we have variables concept. I'll show you. You can see environment variables. Either we have user specific variables or system variables. System variables can be used by anyone on the system. This particular variables can be used only by this specific user. Okay. If you want to add a new variable, you'll go to new and then you'll add the variable name and the value. Okay. Now, similar to that, if I want to see the variables on this particular system in Linux operating system for the root user, so env log. This is the variable name, and this is the value that has been stored inside the variable. There is an equal to sign. Okay. So all these are variables on the left hand side of the equivalent. Right hand side is nothing but the value that has been stored. Okay. The variables you can see almost everything is in capital letters, caps. Okay. There is no small letters. That's a representation. Similar to this command, we can use one more command as well to print the same output. It is print en. The same output can also be fetched by using print env command. Okay. This is fine. We have seen how the variables are available on the system for the user. Now let us understand what is the behavior of this particular variable, like how to create, how long the variable will be there, and how to delete a variable from our side. First of all, how to create a variable. Now for this particular root user, I want to create a variable for temporary purpose. What do you mean by temporary purpose? Let us understand. If, for example, I want to create it, so export variable name is db underscore user, for example, equivalent to let us say variable text. I'm storing this particular name to this particular variable. Means I'm storing this particular value inside this variable. To do that, we are using a command called export and then print. Now I want to verify whether this variable has been created or not. Either we can use printf or env. That is one thing. We can see the variable has been created. Now, where this particular variable has been stored, you are able to fetch the data. But when you created a variable, it has been stored somewhere, right? It is not stored in the disk. Okay, where it will get stored? It will get stored in the RAM. RAM. You know what is meant by RAM? I don't need to explain that. Okay. So it is not getting stored in the disk. It is getting stored in the RAM. Now, how it is visible then? Whenever you try to run the command, it will go and it will fetch this data, whatever it got stored. That is a backend functionality of the operating system. Okay. To understand the feature of this one, this particular environment variable you have created and it has been stored. Now, where it got stored in the RAM. How long it will get stored until you shut down this particular system. If you shut down or if you reboot this particular system, automatically this variable will get deleted. So the value also will get removed. Simple. Or else there is one more condition. Right now, this particular variable has been stored under this particular user. You have created one particular session. Means I have logged into the system, right? So one session got created. Until this particular session is there, okay, the login session, the variable will be there. If I log out from this particular session, okay, means if I log out from this particular user, control D, log out. Now the session has been closed. If the session got closed, what does it mean? These variables have been removed. All the variables will get removed. Okay. But again, if I relog in, other variables will get created except this one because it is temporary. With the command, what I've shown you right now, it is a temporary. Only for temporary purpose, we have created this variable. Okay. Now let me log in to show the proof. If I go back and run print env command, we can see there is no environment variable with the name db underscore user. Okay. So how long the variable will be there? Until the session is available of the user or if you shut down the system or reboot the system. Data will be lost. Environment variable. If you want to make it permanent, then what is the approach I have to follow? Then we have to look into this particular file called bash rc. Profile we can use it. Okay. Let me try to use profile. Let me just check. To open this particular file, for now, for everybody, the comfortable editor is nothing but nano. So let me try to use nano. Let me try to use bash RC file first. Bash RC. Yeah. You can see how I opened this particular file. I'll show you once again. Nano is an editor. Don't use cat command. Okay. Nano editor space file name, whichever the file you want to open through this editor. Bash RC. It is a hidden file. Open the file, scroll down by using arrow marks. Go to the bottom of the file. Here you will see exports. Okay. Now write your variables here. Export variable name is db underscore user equal to way to text. Now save the changes and come out of it. How to do that? Since you are learning for the first time today, you are done your changes. I want to save it right now. Okay. Or you don't want to save it. There could be two scenarios. Either I want to save my changes, what I've done in this file, or mistakenly have modified. Now I don't want to save it. In both the conditions, first you have to give control X. Hold the control button and give X. Now it will ask you whether to save it or not. Yes or no. If you want to save it, we have to give Y. If you don't want to save it, you have to give N. Either capital Y or capital No. So I'll give capital Y here. Shift Y. Changes have been saved. Now enter. That's it. Your changes have been stored in this inside the file. Okay, but you will not see the immediately the variable we have created. Okay, when you will see the change, either if you log out and the new session got created, automatically what are the changes you have done, those changes will get reflected. Means a new variable will get created automatically. Or else, without logging out, if you want to see the changes of this particular file, first you have to execute this particular file. Okay, how to do that? Source. Okay, in order to apply the changes on that file, we have to use source dash rc. That's it. Now, if I run env command or print env command, you can see the variable. Now, if I log out and re-log in, the variable will be there. You don't need to create it. So from this, what we have understood, if you want to make it permanent, you have to update the file. If you want to keep your variable for temporary purpose, then we have to use export command. Okay, it is as
So
simple as
later,
temporary
sorry,
purpose
later,
or permanent purpose. You have to take
so
a
later
decision
if I want to,
which you want to
if I
keep it.
want to,
Then we have to follow that particular process. If I want to delete this particular variable for temporary purpose, okay, then we have to use unset and the variable name sufficient. No need to give the value. Okay, while creating, you have to give the variable equivalent to value. But when you are deleting it, just you have to give the variable name which you want to delete. And the command is unset. Now, if I check, the variable is not available. Again, if you want to recreate it, you can execute the file or you can log out and bring it. Log out and log out and log in. Okay. So these are the things what we can handle with environment variables. Any doubts or any questions in this?
so if I want to use that variable outside,
Where
right?
it will be useful, either in your shell scripting or tomorrow you might be writing some programs or something else. You can utilize those particular variables. Okay. These are user specific system variables.
Suppose if I want to delete the variable using that nano command means.
Let's go to the next one.
Hello. Hello, is that my voice audible?
We are done with both of them. Next one is
Yeah, I can
yes.
hear you.
Sometimes you might be executing some commands which could be a length of name. The length of the names will be a little bit longer. For example, I'll tell you. Just forgot what I'm trying to do, but let us say this is a lengthy command as of now. Just imagine that it is a lengthy command, but technically it is not. So Whenever I want to execute this command, it will execute and it will give me the result. Maybe a failure result or successful result. But I cannot remember this particular lengthy command. I want to create a shortcut for this called as alias. We call it as. Names also we have sometimes alias written. Nicknames we call it as. Sometimes we have a lengthy name. Instead of remembering that, we use shortcut nicknames. Similar to that, imagine here it is like a shortcut name to this particular lengthy commands. To do that, we have to create alias. If either you can create a temporary alias or permanent alias. If you want to make it permanent, you have to update in the bash rc file. If it is for temporary purpose, you can execute on the terminal itself. Alias, for example, shortcut is WL, okay, equal to, and the command is single quotes ls minus l wc hyphen. Now the alias got created. What does it mean? Now if I run WL, it will get executed and you can see the output got created. Technically, this is not a command. This is the shortcut what we have created for this whole command. Okay. Imagine, for example, LW. I'm giving this. It will say command not found. True. Why? Because in Linux operating system, we don't have any command like LW. But we can create a alias for this particular command with another command. Okay. So that is what we have done. If you want to remove this alias for now, unalias. And the name of the alias, it is WL. Now if I run WL, it doesn't work. It will fail. Command. If you want to make it permanent, you can just update the bash rc file. How I shown for export command, right? Similar to. You have to write this whole sentence in the file. Then this will be created as alias. I'll show you one example, which are inbuilt aliases in Linux operating system. Generally, we will run this command at ls minus al capital. Okay. So this is one of the command that we can execute with some options. Instead of executing this particular command and with these options, we cannot remember all this. Sometimes this particular options. Instead of that, there is a shortcut that is LL. You can see it has printed the same output. No change at all. Why? Because this is inbuilt alias to this command, which is created by Linux operating system. If you want to see that aliases, just open the file bash rc. You scroll down. Somewhere in between, you will see aliases. Yeah, here you can see these are inbuilt aliases. What we have LL, LA, L. Even for L also we have it. Okay. So alias is nothing but to simplify your job by creating some shortcuts for the strange commands or unique commands that you want to execute. Okay. On the system. That is all about alias. Either we can create a temporary alias or permanent alias. Whatever it is, based on the requirement. Okay. Now the next one is, let's see. Next one is pretty simple command for you guys. This one we can ignore for now. I'll discuss that tomorrow with these commands. I want to cover. Okay. Let's go for which. Let's say on the system, you're running some commands. Let us say ls command, or you might be running some date command. Okay. Or for example, print env command. These commands are okay. Now I want to know the path of this particular commands. Means from where they are getting executed. There will be a path rate. Okay. So for this particular command to get executed, there has to be some particular location from where it is getting executed. Now I want to know that. Instead of you searching for that, I want to know it. At that time, we can use which. Okay, print env. We can see it is getting executed from this particular path. In the same way, for example, date. You can see. Or for example, there is a command called reboot. This is in a different path. Sbin and bin. Bin is a binary. Bin is nothing but binaries where we will store. For example, in Windows, we call it as program files. Similar to it. Okay. That is all about it. Simple. Okay. Unique sort type, we can see it later. Okay. The next major important commands are we have top command, PS command. For example, on the system, I want to see the load. In Windows operating system, we'll go to the taskbar, and here we can see a task manager. If I open that application, here you will see the applications, what they are running right now. What is the CPU utilization? What is the memory utilization? What is the disk utilization? And what is the network utilization on your system? That information we can fetch from here. Not only that, I can stop this particular application as well. Right click, end your task. Right? So this is what we can do from this particular application. Not only that, if you want to see the total CPU utilization, we can just go to this particular performance. Here we can see the CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk 0 and 1, Ethernet or Wi-Fi, whichever you are using, and GPU. Since my system is having GPU with NVIDIA, we can see the utilization percentage. And we can see the Wi-Fi utilization. And we can see the memory utilization and then followed by CPU utilization. Okay, we can see CPU I have almost 24 core CPU. And the memory what I have is 20 GB. Sorry, 32 GB of total memory. Now how much is utilized? 10 GB is utilized, only 20 GB is left. Because some amount of GB have allocated to the virtual machine, right? Almost 4 GB I guess, which I have allocated. So even that is also utilized. You can see here, 4 GB. 4 GB is utilized by virtual machine, rest of the 6 GB is utilized by your physical machine, Windows. Okay. Now, what about Linux operating system? How I can fetch that kind of data in the Linux operating system? We can use top command to see the live utilization of your devices on the system. You can see the total process IDs and their utilization of CPU and memory, and what command they are executing in the backend for this process. Okay, this is like nothing but priority. Okay, higher the number, higher the priority. Lower the number, lower the priority. And then we can see shared status of the particular process. Is it running or is it sleep? What is the CPU utilization? What is the memory utilization? From how long it is running? And what is the command? This is a live information. You can see it is getting changed for every second. Now here we can see we have saw this particular output for one of the command. Does anyone remember? For the line which I've highlighted right now, we have already saw one command to fetch this particular data. Now, two commands we have seen. What are those? Does anyone remember it? I've told you this command to fetch this output. Does anyone remember it? No. There is a command to fetch only this particular output, which I've shown. Uptime.
Up.
If you remember, there is a command called uptime. Okay. Now here also we can see it. Next one is tasks. What is the total number of process IDs? Out of the total number of process IDs, how many are running right now? How many are sleeping right now? How many are stopped? And what is a zombie? Okay. So this is the total information of the tasks. Nothing but process. And you can see the process information. Next one is CPU utilization. Remember, to understand the CPU utilization, the simple concept is If the idle time is more, then the CPU utilization will be less. If the idle time is less, then the CPU utilization will be more. Inversely proportional it is. 100 minus idle time equivalent to utilization of the CPU. Now you can see 100 minus 97. What is the utilization? Only 3%. That's all. That is a way to understand the CPU utilization. When you're doing some troubleshooting on the system and all, these are the informations what you have to capture. Then we can say the memory utilization. This is swap memory. You can ignore it. Right now it is memory that is allocated to the system. It is 4 GB. Out of that, you can see the free utilized and all. If you want to come out of this output, just we have to give Q. Q for quit. You'll come out of this command. Later, I will tell you some shortcuts and all. The purpose of this command is to see the live information of your utilization of the CPU, memory, and process. CPU, memory, and process. Right now, if you want to see the static information, not dynamic, dynamic in the sense what you have seen right now, every second it will get changed. It will try to fetch the new data, the status of the data. Now, but I want to see only for the command right now, when I executed the command, what are the process information is there? I want to pull that information. In those conditions, we have to use PS, process, only process related information. And then AUX, enter. We can see the process information, the user column, process ID, CPU utilization, memory utilization, virtual CPU utilization, sorry, virtual memory utilization, and the command time started, when it got started, from how long it is running, what is the status of this particular process. All this information will get fetched. But when I executed this command, at that time, what are the status is there? That information will get pulled. Now this particular status might have been changed. Okay, it could be possible. But to see the static information, we have to run this command. To see the dynamic information, we have to use top command. Okay, so this is the basic difference between top and PS. But remember, I have not shown you any other options from these two commands. We will discuss them in one by one in the actual sessions. I just want to know, tell you only the purpose of these commands. Okay. Next one, top and then PS. Okay. Now these are sufficient. So we are almost done with the phase one Linux commands. Only few are left that we will be discussing one by one. For example, sleep, job. Tomorrow I will start with this. Then I will jump with another new topic in Linux operating system. Yeah, Santosh.
Hey, hi, Siddharth. So with the
You
help of
raised your
window, we
hand.
can, yeah, hi, I'm audible.
Sorry, I'm not able to hear anything.
Hello.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
audible.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not able to hear.
Yeah, Siddharth.
Just a second, let me check. Sorry for that. But anyway, you can type the questions, whatever you want to ask. Meanwhile, in Windows, the task manager, we can kill the task. Yes, yes. In Windows, in Linux operating system also we can kill it. But since I have not discussed about kill command, I just want to skip for that now. So in tomorrow's session, we are going to talk about kill, how to kill the process IDs. There could be a situation where, right, some particular process IDs are running on the system. You want to kill them forcefully. In those conditions, how will you kill that particular process IDs? That we are going to see for sure. Yeah. I'm not done with. Yeah. Any other questions? Santosh, I hope your question has been answered.
Yes, yes.
Do we need to make a copy of the bash file? Yeah, if see, it is not mandated, but if you want to ensure nothing has been lost, it is better you create a backup. Okay, with some underscore backup VKG, something like that. Okay, but it is not mandated. If you feel that if I do some mistakes, it will mess up my system, obviously you have to take a backup. Just create another copy. with some name. Why we use slash temp slash in front? Okay. See, slash, we are using it because it is a root directory. Your temp directory is one directory. Okay. That particular directory will be available under slash. So remember, slash is one directory that is called as root directory. I will talk about that. We are not done with that actually. So that's the reason you came up with the questions. Yeah, that is a genuine question. So slash is one root directory. Root directory. All the directories on your Linux system will be available under slash. Okay. It is as simple as. I have two directories, each have one file. Can I will be able to move to another file which present in another directory? Yes, you can. You can move that. Yeah, that's what. Cat greater than DevOps in the sense first hold the control button and give D. Control D. Then the changes will get saved. If you give control D, automatically the changes will get saved. Santosh. Okay. Any other questions? Harish is typing. Can we change a file name? Yes. We have seen, so if you remember the yesterday's session, right? Means on Friday, we have discussed about how to change the file name, how to change the directory name. CP command, right? Or MV command. If you want to change the, if you want to copy paste a file from one location to another location, copy paste. If you want to rename a files, it could be a file or directory. MV command. MV. Move. Okay. So that's all for today, guys. And tomorrow we'll continue with the one or two commands that are left. And then we'll start a new topic in Linux operating system. That is either it could be users and permissions or package management. Any one of these topics. None of them is having any dependency. So I will start any topic, a new topic in Linux operating system.